Hi guys, Backwaters and Backroads here again. So we have another treat for you. Steve of the Chillaxn came down to Birdsong today, and he's going to take us on a little ride of his 24-foot Shanty boat build that he did a couple years ago. And I will show you as much as I can about it because he's inspiring me. It's very similar to the puddle jumper that I'm building now, which I'm just building a 20-foot version. His is a 24-foot version. And we're just going to go out on the bay here and buzz around. We'll get to see it in action, and then I'll turn the phone around and show you some of the details of this really cool boat. So stay tuned.
I guess we can drive to the bridge and back, or as far as you want to go. The steering controls, I don't know if it can be fixed. It might be as best it's going to be, but I get around with it pretty good.
So Steve put it up to full throttle just to see what he could do with two people and a Beagle on it, and it looks like, we're doing about a little over 11 miles an hour, and he's got a Yamaha 40 horse in the back, a new one, more or less new. He's doing pretty good. So Steve, you do a lot of fishing with this rig. You primarily set it up for that. What kind of fish do you fish for?
Primarily catfish. If I find a good way to catch crappie, I'd do that. And bluegill.
And you caught a bass this morning?
Now I caught a bass this morning on some minnows. I was fishing for crappie, but I caught a bass. Spend a lot of time at the marina. In the summertime, I'll cut through there, but not in the wintertime. And you'll catch a big one every now and then with chicken livers. But one thing about chicken livers is they come off the hook so damn quick. Instead of having to rebait so many times, I just got so sick of rebaiting with the chicken livers. Just messy. And when I started using the thread fin shad, I was still catching good, decent fish, but I wasn't having to rebait so many times.
And of course, you got a couple 100 pounds of fishing gear, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Steve, how much does the boat weigh?
About 800 pounds for the cabin.
The cabin's 800 pounds.
The cabin's 800 pounds. I took in the manufacturer how much the motor weighs, and then I looked up the 95 Bass Buggy pontoon boat and looked up its max weight, and I'm right at maybe 200 pounds less than max weight what this boat's actually supposed to have on it.
Okay.
That's humans and all the cargo when it was a pontoon boat with the seats and this and the other. But, I really watched that close because I didn't want it. Didn't want to overload it with weight. I was scared about that. Matter of fact, I got most of it built, and I took it to a small lake close to the house and just set it in the water to see what it looked like. And it set just fine. And I came back, and then I added all the weight to the batteries and the battery box and all that stuff. But it's worked out really good as far as the weight. I weighed all the windows, the walls. I weighed them before I even put them on the boat, so I knew how much. And then the boards, I took in consideration how much they weigh, which ain't much, seeing how they're just cedar fence pickets. But I figured that this cabin weighs basically, I didn't weigh the refrigerator, but I took into account how much the batteries would weigh. But anyhow, it worked out good. The weight distribution is about as, I wouldn't want any more, and I basically wouldn't want any less.
Yeah. Would you have a number just approximately of kind of what the boat weighs now?
No, I can just tell you, I checked, I think it's 2,200 pounds is how much weight you can put on these pontoons.
Mm-hmm. I'll look that up, guys, and put it in this video.
Yeah, it's the Bass Tracker 24-foot pontoon pontoon boat with, you know, just pontoon.
Yeah.
And I think it was around 2,200 pounds. That's motor and anything else you got on board, including humans.
Okay, guys, so we're going to do a walkthrough, see how much I can remember here. I've been here for a couple hours, and Steve's told me a lot about the boat. So, the trolling motor that he uses is the kind that you can set like an anchor. It'll just sit there and keep you in place while he's fishing. I'd like to get one of those for the puddle jumper. So that's really nice, and it's 12 volt. He took the carpet off the floor and he put this roll-on kind of paint abrasive material. I'll show you a picture of it. And I think I'm going to do this too, because the carpet on the puddle jumper project is pretty much spent, and this is a good idea. He says it's lasted really well. Now, he built this outdoor sink, which he also houses some batteries. You can see down in here. And also there's an inverter there. Good idea to be able to tilt it up like this. And he can, for his cut bait and washing his hands, things like that. And remember, this is mostly a fishing shanty, or he left a lot of deck for that reason. And I'll talk a little more about that as we go here. He's got a cutting, or I guess you'd call this like a fillet table. He's going to make it a little bigger, because a lot of times the catfish that he catches are bigger than this table. They kind of hang up on both sides. Good idea. Let's go inside. So he did a great job on these doors, and he also has screen doors. He says it's the first time he's made screen doors, but they sure turned out good. Now this cabin is roughly 8 by 8. He said it's really 8.6 by 8.6. So it's like almost a perfect square. And I'm glad to see it. I'm glad that we spent a couple hours in here, and I've decided I'm going to go 8 by 8 also with the puddle jumper project. It's really all you need. 1 or 2 people, you know, a couple, friendly couple, or just one person. You got a place to sleep. You got a little kitchenette. You got a room for your helm. And he has a freezer here for all the fillets he catches and going on multi-night trips, fishing trips. I'll point out a couple things here. This is like a bar stool, and I think I'm going to get one of those for the Beagle barge. It's time to get some kind of helm seat. And he made this console. I'll show you some pictures of that. He said it was the first real project of its kind that he did, and there's a few things he would have done differently, but I think it turned out great. Because the ones that the boats come with are often too big and falling apart, kind of like the puddle jumper one. They sit out in the weather for years. He stores a lot of his poles up on the roof. He's pretty much made most of his own little hangers. His sister made the curtains, and they're on these rollers. This is a good idea here, where you just put them on dowels, and then you can roll them up, and they roll up, and you can kind of bring them halfway down if you just want to have them like a shade. That's a good simple solution. And you just use these, whatever those are called. It's got a 12-volt fan. Got that on Amazon, he said. I'll show you something else here. I'm just as much pointing this out for myself for future reference. I'll probably watch this again in the spring and summer when I'm working on the puddle jumper. Corners are often, you got to work something out, when two walls come together. And so he thought about it, and he put a chunk of 2x4 there, and they kind of, you can see it, one comes in that way and has a place to fasten, and then one comes on the outside of it. And so, yeah, get a nice close-up of that one. Talking to myself here, guys, but that might come in handy for you too. He has AC for the hot weather months, and he runs that on a Honda 2200 watt briefcase generator, which I'll show you a picture of that. So you can see when you have, this is a 24-foot model. We can see when he's just went 8-foot by 8-foot cabin. He has a nice front deck and a nice back deck too. A lot of times when people build their shanty boats, there's a lot more front deck than back deck, or they don't want to move their helm forward, and so they place their cabins farther back. And when you have a smaller cabin, you can see you have the benefits of having 2 decent-sized decks on the back. I'm sorry, 2 decent-sized decks on the boat, front and back, and that can, you have 2 fishermen on board. You know, one person can just cast from the back, one person can be in the front, kind of stay out of each other's way. Even though mine is a 20-footer, let's see, what is it, 20 feet? So it'll leave me 12 feet, or, you know, let's just call it 5 feet on either side. That's going to be nice. He repowered it with a brand new, at the time, Yamaha 40 horse 4-stroke, obviously, and those things purr like a dream. If you can go that route, that's a great way to go. And he says it's very economical. He built the bed so that these totes can slide in and out. Good idea. He did have a lip across the bottom to kind of keep them in place, but then he found it was kind of hard to pull them up over that lip, so he just took them off because he said he never has any trouble with them sliding when they've got stuff in them. So he heats it with Mr. Buddy heater, and when I first came here, he had it on, and it was nice and toasty warm in here. You can imagine it's pretty easy to heat a little small space like this. Before I leave the cabin here, guys, I'm just going to point this out. So he framed up the cabin with 2x4s, but then, you know, you call it like the bracing. He just went with 1-bys just to save some weight, because he kind of figured there's no reason to do it all in 2x4s, which is smart. And then I'll show you down here, he made sure that the lag bolts holding the cabin onto the boat go into aluminum bracing. You call those stringers, I guess, underneath the floor here. So that tightens up the cabin as well. And I'm glad that he pointed that out, because then I'll make sure I do that when I build mine. Steve, I really appreciate you taking the time today, coming up from your house a couple hours away and showing us this awesome boat.
Well, I feel privileged to have you come and be I don't believe I'll get into the YouTube.
Well, this is going to inspire a lot of people, me for starters, and it's you did a great job.
Different ideas.
Yeah, you did a really good job on this. It really covers a lot of bases in a small space.
Right.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, my shanty boats, scooters and beagles are the only things that keep me moving on. There's no charm in chasing dreams that fade before your eyes.